Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and we got ourselves a winning streak. Yep, it was a win over the Jets, but considering the state of our franchise just a month ago, beggars can't really be choosers, can they? It was not the dominating win that many of us may have wanted, but there was still plenty good to look at. Things that we can build on, and players who, despite some poor circumstances, are continuing to play well. We'll get into all of that, as well as what this little winning streak means for the Dolphins going forward. Let's get into it, and let's dive in. The Dolphins entered Week 11 at 3-7, still on the bottom end of the league and not really relevant at all, but in order to gain that respect, you have to keep winning no matter what team is opposing you, whether that's the Baltimore Ravens or the New York Jets. Overall, the same issues which have been plaguing this team, they persisted. But unlike the 7 consecutive losses that we had to endure earlier in the year, those glaring issues, they were, well, less glaring. For example, the offensive line was better. Yup, Tua was still under duress throughout the game, but the line provided enough protection to actually let Tua sling the ball downfield and allow certain concepts to develop downfield. The running game was also improved, nothing crazy, but considering this line's standards, seeing Myles Gaskin and Duke Johnson gain solid yardage on first and second down was a nice change of pace. Speaking of, I loved seeing Duke tote the rock for Miami. If you listen to him post-game, he only endeared himself further to Dolphins fans. Having grown up in the area, attended the University of Miami, Duke's a local guy who grew up loving local teams. That includes the Dolphins, who he now plays for. He talked about his favorite players of all time being the big three, as he called them, Zach, Jason, and Ricky. You'll love to see it. But as a runner, he ran hard. He hit the holes, and perhaps not being the most electric or elusive guy out of the backfield, he does know, though, how to run north and south. He hits the hole, sticks his foot in the dirt, and does not dance around. He made the most of the few holes that were created by the line, finishing with 18 yards on 4 carries, 4.5 yards per carry. Myles Gaskin also had a good game, not as good of an average as Duke Johnson, but compared to rushing performances earlier this year, his 89 yards on 23 carries was solid, and the fact that he got 23 carries shows you the emphasis Miami had on trying to establish a little bit of a running game. So, the run game was solid with the help of improved O-line play, but another positive to draw from the offense was the play calling. Like we spoke of last week, the Dolphins have been showing signs of life on offense, despite what many continue to think. Is it good enough? Is it enough life? No, but improvement is important. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago. We had to readjust our standards for this team. We thought we were going to be one of the better teams in the league coming into September. That quickly we woke up from that dream. That was not happening. So readjust your bar, set it a little bit lower than you might have wanted, and now judge their improvement. And that's what we need to do. If you keep holding them to that standard of being a perennial playoff caliber team, you're going to be disappointed week in and week out because they've proven they're not that team anymore. But if you want this team to go on a run, that little bit of improvement week to week is necessary. Before, the offense really had no identity. Now, it appears they're slightly developing one. They utilize those RPOs at a less frequent rate with play-action fakes, and then running those same concepts week to week, building off of them, throwing in wrinkles, and improving them generally as time goes on. And we saw this in the red zone. The Wildcat has been used often, but this time, they handed it off to Jalen Waddle. Miami used that swing pass that worked brilliantly against the Ravens with Albert Wilson, and they tried it again. It worked, but it was called back to a bullshit OPI. Regardless, Miami's clearly putting more of an effort to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers. We saw those quick screen passes for Albert Wilson, the running play for Jalen Waddle. He was actually used out of the backfield a couple times, which shows some ingenuity with the way they're trying to put him in position to utilize that speed. Mike Gesicki was used early and often, which we have been preaching for. I'm sick of seeing him show up in the fourth quarter. I want him there all game long. Plus, Miami did seem to be a little less predictable in their run-pass balance. Before, it felt like most fans would be like, yep, they're running here. Yep, they're throwing here. But this game, it was a little more, oh, 2nd and 1, you're taking a deep shot. We love to see it. The other aspect of the offense, the aspect which really doesn't get spoken about enough, is Tua's ability to manipulate the pocket and buy himself time, buy his receivers time to get open. Now, on his interception, that was a bad throw. He had room to step up in the pocket, move to his left, buy more time, but he didn't. Mac Hollins was about to break open if he moved up, but he rushed it. And aside from that one play, Tua managed to move around the pocket and get rid of the ball quickly and efficiently, moving the offense and not putting the team in many bad positions. Because of this ability Tua has, Miami allowed 0 sacks. 0. Now, be honest with yourself. Is this an offensive line which deserves the credit for not letting up a sack? Like, oh, the O-line did great today. No sacks allowed. Because I don't know about you, but it didn't feel like Tua had all day to throw back there. Moving on to the defense, Miami continued to be aggressive, tackling well and forcing New York into bad positions. 3rd and longs, bad field position, not letting them move often. However, they weren't as dominant as you would have hoped, especially when you think about a couple Thursdays ago when they completely shut down Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. Instead, Joe Flacco, the former Raven, was able to diagnose Miami's blitzes and deliver the ball safely to a spot where Miami did not have many defenders. Here's the thing, though. Aside from 1 or 2 big plays, the big touchdown to Elijah Moore is going to be special. He is quick. He's going to be a great slot guy. I think he probably can play on the outside, too. His touchdown, I believe, was from the outside, and Xavier Howard himself said that guy is going to be a stud. So if Xavier Howard's got your approval, you definitely have my approval. But aside from those big plays, those quick passes from Flacco generally resulted in minimal gains. They were just ways to escape sacks. It was like, holy shit, they're coming at me. Here's the 3-yard dump off. And look, Miami's defensive philosophy, it does lean on that. Bend but don't break. So we'll give you all the 3-4 yard passes you want as long as you're not getting into the end zone. But overall, Flacco was efficient. And he passed effectively, which isn't exactly what you want to see when you consider the better quarterbacks that we're going to face. I mean, not much better. I would rather have Flacco than Cam Newton throwing the ball for me. Flacco or Daniel Jones. It's kind of the same. But regardless, it was enough to get the win. And it's important to note that the game plan also adjusts week to week. Miami doesn't impose themselves with their own philosophy. It's why it feels like this team plays up to good teams and then they play down to bad teams. Because like I said, they're not imposing something they do every week against an opposing offense. Instead, they focus on what the opposing offense does and then try to limit what that is and take it away. Think of what New England does. They tried to limit the run and then make the Jets one-dimensional. They weren't doing a great job of limiting the run until Michael Carter got injured, but generally it worked, and it allowed them to put pressure on Flacco in those 3rd and long situations when you know they're throwing the ball. And you forced a turnover as well as some drive-killing mistakes by doing that. Let's move on to the studs and duds of the game. While we're on the defense, let's start there. Our first stud of the game, Jevon Holland. It's getting really nice to see this rising star of Holland. He's been getting better consistently. But the best part is while his personal game has improved, like, we're seeing Jalen Phillips get better every week, but Jalen Phillips' impact on the game isn't getting much more improved. Yeah, he had a sack, and we'll get to that, but it's not like Jalen Phillips is becoming more and more of a dominant force. He's just getting better. But that is not happening with Holland. He's getting better as an individual, and the impact he's making on the game itself is growing week to week. He is all over the place, helping in coverage. He broke up a huge pass over the middle, which would have been like a 25, 30-yard gain. He comes in there, punches it right out of Corey Davis's hands. Great play. He also helps in run defense as a great tackler. He blitzed into the backfield and wrapped up Michael Carter's leg, spinning him to the ground. Another great play by him. And he's great at blitzing, putting pressure on the quarterback. He finished the game with 5 tackles, and I hope to see him matched up with Christian McCaffrey often next week, but we'll get into the game plan for the Panthers in a coming episode. Our first dud goes to Adam Butler. Look, I really like the signing, and I do think, generally, he's a solid contributor as a rotational defensive tackle, but for some reason, he seems to be in far more packages than Zach Sealer, and I don't understand why. He didn't make much of an impact on the game, and I would really like to see his snaps reduced in favor of Sealer, but I don't think Flores listens to me, so we'll find out. Our next stud goes out to Brandon Jones. Although he isn't the best coverage safety, it's definitely something that needs to be improved on for him, but his tackling ability, it's great. And he's a bullet off the edge and helped prevent the Jets from turning the tide of the game early when they were in the red zone as it was tied 7-7. His forced fumble on Flacco was a thing of beauty. And Christian Wilkins made a great play on the ball as well to make sure Miami got possession. Our next dud goes out to, yep, you guessed it, Jesse Davis. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the 2021 Miami Dolphins season is what dirt Jesse Davis has on the Dolphins coaching staff. Because blackmail aside, I see no good reason for Davis to continue to be the starter, but here we are. The interception. Yes, a bad throw from Tua, but it was forced due to pressure on the right side of the line, and similarly, Tua's deep bomb to Matt Collins also showed Jesse getting beat bad and Tua needing to step up to avoid Jesse's man. And no, he didn't really avoid him. He had to step up. He was having his shoulder pulled back, trying to avoid that sack before ripping away and throwing the deep ball. At this point, I'm just resigned to the fact that Flores and the Dolphins coaches don't think anyone else would be better, and as a result, they have no one else to blame but themselves. If Miami does want to go on this run, they need the line to play at least a little better going forward. The run blocking was improved, that's good, but the pass rush against a bad defense was too much. And now you're going to face Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick, so pick that shit up. Our final stud is Tua Tagovailoa. Regardless of what you think of the man's future with the team, it's important to give credit when credit is due. Tua makes one big mistake per game, but he's unfazed by it. He continues to go out there and put the ball in tight windows, throwing confidently, showing confidence in his arms, as well as his anticipation of what's going to open up. If you remember last season, the main complaint was Tua was not, quote, throwing guys open or seeing plays develop soon enough. He would seemingly wait until they were Alabama open, and that doesn't happen in the NFL often. So he held onto the ball often and took sacks while missing opportunities, and it's one of the main knocks against starting him over Fitzpatrick. It's what a lot of people who were on Team Fitzpatrick were saying. It was like, look, Fitz throws guys open. He will find the open hole before it actually gets there. Tua, he needs to see it first, and that limits the offense and what you can do. Here's the thing, though. In order to get past that for Tua, and actually for him to be able to throw with that anticipation, he needed those reps, and we're seeing it pay off now. If he didn't play last season, he'd be making some of those mistakes that he made at the end of last year. Now, he's learned from them. He had all offseason to look at film, figure out when a potential window might be opening, when to throw the ball, and just work on that anticipation at the NFL level. He's making way more throws into tight windows and playing at a really efficient clip. He finished the game with 27 of 33 passing. That's over 80% completion, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the interception. A good game against a bad defense, so nothing wild. But what's good to see is that those ribs aren't limiting his mobility, and his fractured finger does not appear to be a problem. He had the longest air yards throw of the week across the NFL. Anyone thinking his arm isn't up to snuff needs to stop sniffing paint. The only real knock on Tua's game right now is his size. Not that it impedes his ability to be an effective quarterback, rather, it calls his durability into question. That's the worry with Tua. Arm strength, mobility, pocket presence, he showed all of that this past weekend. Now, in order for Miami to keep this dream alive, they must keep winning, and Tua must be a key factor to those wins down the stretch. Just a month ago, Deshaun Watson to Miami in the offseason felt like a foregone conclusion. And upsetting, as many of us fans may have felt, it's just true. Miami was speaking with Watson. It was so obvious. A deal was in place. It's so clear that they wanted to move on. But if Tua keeps helping this team win, I don't know how certain the aforementioned narrative will turn out. Because he has a chance to win over the front office, all the coaches, and the fans who still doubts him. If he gets rid of those few mistakes that he makes, Tua has all the ability to be an elite-level passer in the game. We're seeing those glimpses, efficiency, accuracy, being able to push the ball downfield when given time, and being able to minimize sacks by getting rid of the ball quickly. A couple plays for Tua that I want to highlight. First, the deep touchdown. It's amazing to see him not shy away at all from the big play. Compared to earlier in the season, Tua has been looking downfield much, much more, and that in turn is opening up things for the rest of the passing game, opening up things in the box, helping the run game, and pushing back against the noodle arm narrative. Let me repeat, Tua had the deepest completion across the league last week. His accuracy on that throw while moving up in the pocket, moments after being tugged at by defenders, it was spot on. Mac Hollins did not have to stop running. Contrary to popular belief, he simply flipped his hips and turned his body so he was in position to get the ball and then turn upfield. And he did that, flipping his hips while continuously moving deeper down the field. He was not slowing down for the ball. He had to flip his hips and keep going to make sure he got there. Tua's second touchdown to Myles Gaskin also showed some grit. He stood in there and got smacked while delivering a clean pass over the middle in the red zone. His toughness is shining through each week, and you can see the team is really rallying behind him. And the last throw, that third down conversion where he found Waddle on the boundary, what an amazing throw. No room to work with. A defender right on Jalen's hips. He is playing up against the boundary as he's running out of bounds, and Tua is able to essentially hand him the ball 15 yards away, one which helped keep the drive alive and move the chains. Our final dud, and this breaks my heart, but it's Jason Sanders. You can't miss a chip shot, and he's been having a tough season. I don't know if it's the change from ad hoc to Pilardi. I don't know if it's him getting paid, but you want that consistency that we had from Sanders to return. Hopefully, it's just a bit of a slump, and he gets out of it. But if he continues to miss some easy field goals, some field goals that might have won us games earlier this year, I think you have to start thinking about bringing in competition, because kicker is one of those positions where I don't care what you did last year. If you suck this year, it's over for you. It's not like a running back or a corner where you might get a little more time to bounce back. Kickers, there's only 32 jobs in the entire league. It's kind of like a quarterback. So if Sanders doesn't pick it up, that might be something we need to look at. But I have faith in him. He has a golden leg. I think it's more of a mental thing than anything else. He's not shanking. He's just missing things. He hit the goal. That was a painful doink sound in the stadium. But regardless, I do have faith Sanders will pick it up. But for now, he is our last dud. In our Thanksgiving episode tomorrow, we're going to talk more about his game, Tua, and what we need to see improve from the offense at large. And then when we talk again on Friday, we'll get further into the details of Miami's upcoming matchup against the Panthers. Like, we all understand the opponent we just faced. It is the lowly Jets. And they weren't even starting a young gun at quarterback with, really high potential. They were starting Joe Flacco. But here's the thing with that. That move, the decision by Robert Saleh to go with the experienced veteran, I think that shows immense respect to Flores in this defense. Saleh knew a young quarterback would get confused and likely be rocked multiple times by all those exotic looks Miami dishes out, potentially making multiple mistakes and turning the ball over. So, to maximize their chances of winning the game and limiting those mistakes, Saleh threw aside the long-term development of his team, being able to evaluate a young quarterback with an actual future, even Mike White, and instead, they went with Flacco. That shows me, at least, that the league does fear this defense to some degree. Now, I know it's the Jets, but the Jets are in a position where why would they care if they really lose at this point? They should be focused on developing their talent. But if you're worried that playing this defense won't help development, it will hinder it, then you put in Flacco, that's a good sign for how people look at your defense. The big test is coming up as we take on Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, an amazing young wideout, Robbie Anderson, and Carolina's solid tight ends. And Tommy Tremble, he's a pretty good young guy. I believe he's from Notre Dame. He's been catching a good amount of touchdown passes. So in the red zone, keep an eye on all their weapons because any one of them is liable to score. And like I said, stay with us and subscribe so as not to miss out on that conversation in the coming days. Big picture, our Dolphins are now 4-7, 3 games back from 500 and true relevance in the playoff discussion. I can fantasize. You can join me in this fantasy, or like some of you in the comments tell me I'm stupid, that's fine too. But until we get to 7-7, no one's going to care about this run. Miami is on a 3-game winning streak, and the toughest opponent in that 4-game stretch of the Jets, Panthers, Giants, Jets, that's the Panthers. That's now on us. It's going to take a great week of prep, focus, and game planning to execute a much-needed win in the grand scheme of things. The Panthers are no easy out. They run a defense just as exotic as Miami and with arguably better talent. Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick, Derek Brown, Steph Gilmore, Jeremy Chin, Shaq Thompson. They got speedy and aggressive guys across the board on all three levels. So it's going to be a test for our line and offense as a whole. Our defense will also be tasked with trying to make Carolina one-dimensional. If they're able to do that, and we'll get more into this on Friday, but if they're able to do that and put the game in Cam Newton's hands which can grip a football but not really throw it, I feel good about our chances. So I do have a game plan in mind to help do that and remind the NFL world exactly who Cam is, a washed-up has-been who showed his true colors last season with the Patriots. The good news, we've played him twice just a season ago, so our defensive personnel has familiarity with him and his tendencies. The last note for today's show, I am grateful to have been able to attend the Metlife Takeover event held by the amazing people over at Dolphins NYC. They do an awesome job of creating an event which brings together Dolphins fans from across the country. It was a hell of a time, got to meet people from all over, from Florida, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Maine, Delaware, people from everywhere all riding with the Dolphins. It was a great time, and the reason for this Wednesday edition, because my voice, it was gone the last 2 days. As much as I wish I could have made an episode, I was talking like I couldn't speak. So that's why I'm sorry it took a little bit. You might be able to tell my voice is still a little hoarse, but surround me with a bunch of diehard Dolphins fans, I'll be screaming. So screaming with them, hundreds of them in the stadium. It was so fun. And being in enemy territory made it all the better. So I look forward to going every year as long as they'll have me and until the Jets realize how much taking over we're actually doing. So they shut us down because the guys at Slattery's, the bar the night before, so much fun. OJ McDuffie's walking around. Travis Wingfield's walking around. It is awesome. It's really cool. And it's really fun just to kind of feel really a part of the community, especially after this last year where we all have kind of been separated way more than we would want to. So like I said, I want to thank all the people I met, including Dudley Durong and Paul Pickens from On the Fin Side, both amazing people and true fans of this team. It was great getting to meet them. Obviously, if you listen to me, I know you know who Dudley Durong is. So obviously give him a watch. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And talking to him in person, you're like, man, not only does this guy love the team, he knows his crap. And Paul Pickens, awesome guy. I was able to meet him and his son as well as his father. They were super sweet people and also super knowledgeable on the Dolphins. So check out DDW's channel and be sure to listen to On the Fin Side to get better insight about the team than you get from me. But hey, appreciate you listening. Both GDW and Paul Pickens, amazing people. It was an honor to meet them, and I look forward to building relationships with other fans, as many as I can in the coming years. We all love this team. And yeah, that love can be expressed a million different ways, as we know, by a million different people. Twitter really shows that. But at the core, we all want the same thing. Success for our boys in Aqua and Orange. Fins up.
Tua eluding the pressure and going deep down the sideline. He has a man open and he's got it. 10-5 and pushed out of bounds is Matt Holland. No, he's ruled a touchdown. He did not go out of bounds.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you as always to Timothy Ritchie, Brian Guger, Brandon Leist, and Chris, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the support. And please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the show is available on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course, here on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter, @PhinsPod. I hope you all have an amazing day. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. And until next time, stay safe, eat up, get fat. Love y'all.